Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a spectacular tournament that started a couple of days ago. Welcome to the Computer Rapid Chess Championship in 2024 that you can follow now on the official and beautiful chess.com website. So as I'm recording this video, the situation is really heated because we have now a new leader in the competition. Believe me or not, it's not Stockfish. Now the Torch chess engine is in the lead after the first 18 rounds. Torch has now 10 half points and Stockfish is second behind with, I would say, only 10 points because it was always a pure domination by Stockfish. Now the Torch engine is taking over. We have now a really interesting and heated situation here for sure. It's also worth to mention that Leela C0 has also great chances in this tournament because Leela played so far only 16 games and has now 9 points, which means maybe if Leela makes 2 draws at least in this next couple of rounds, then Leela C0 could also have at least the same point count like Stockfish. Or if Leela C0 wins one game, it plays a 1 draw, then Leela C0 could take the lead combined with the Torch engine. So it's really crazy situation, and as I predicted, this Torch engine is really getting stronger and stronger. It's now really interesting for us to follow, and that's the competition I think that we have searched for in this top engine level chess. We have been really waiting for something that could challenge the best engine in the world, the Stockfish engine. Now I think the Torch engine is there somewhere at least to mess up a little bit here the domination by Stockfish 16. So I've sorted out really a beautiful game from this event. We have here Torch versus Stockfish in an amazing Sicilian with great tactics but also with great endgame strategies. So in my opinion, this was really also an important tournament, important moment of this tournament for sure. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The Torch engine opened with move e4. The fish response was c5, the Sicilian. Knight to f3. We have d6, the modern variations of the Sicilian defense. Knight to c3, and after move knight to f6, here Torch went immediately with an aggressive method with the move e5. d takes e5, knight to e5, challenging the knight here with the move knight to d7. Torch retreats, and Stockfish prepares here with the move a6 to launch a flank attack against both of these knights with b5 and also with the move b4. Torch prevents this, of course, with the move a4. We have now the move b6, and now after move d4, the last prearranged move by the organizer was now the move c takes d4. From this point on, the engines have to calculate the position for themselves. Here Torch continued, of course, with queen to d4. We have g6 by the fish, preparing bishop to g7, attacking now the centralized the queen. The queen is a little bit exposed, could be attacked, of course, by some minor piece activity. So we have here bishop to e3. Torch continues here the pressure against this weak pawn on b6. Stockfish continues with bishop to g7. Knight takes b6 here by Torch. Queen to b6. Queen takes b6, and after knight to b6, bishop to b6, it seems so that Black could have the pawn back because White has to now retreat maybe with the bishop, but here Torch played a really beautiful idea, plays now bishop to c7, because you cannot take the pawn on b2 because you're running into wild tactics after queenside castling. The rook is under fire, you have to retreat here to b7, and then rook to d8 is a beautiful and spectacular checkmate. You could maybe try here to castle, maybe to, I don't know, try something like this after king takes b2, knight to e4 to get an activity, but king to b3 solves all of the positional problems. You maybe take, you can grab maybe here one piece, but after a couple of trades of pieces, here I think White is simply winning. White is up the exchange. Black will have here messed up pawn structure, although Black is down a pawn, but it's of course down the exchange. I think in top engine level, this is completely winning here for White. So very wild stuff. So bishop to c7, an amazing idea here by the Torch engine. So we have rook to b7 by Stockfish. Torch continues with bishop to a5, again with the same idea. Rook takes b2 followed with queenside castling is of course then winning here again for White. We have kingside castling by Stockfish, and now queenside castling. Torch has now its pawn protected on b2 and is continuing now the game with an extra pawn. But Stockfish is of course the dynamic beast. Stockfish will now try to attack the castle king. Stockfish will try now to expose some weaknesses through the c file and maybe also through the b file. We have bishop to f5, of course liberating the square for the rook, attacking also the weakness on c2. We have now the move g3 by Torch, because in some lines Bishop to h6 could be dangerous. Then you want to cover yourself with the move f4. We have rook from f to b8, hitting now the pawn on b2. Torch is forced now to play the move b3, and now knight to d7. Stockfish continues simply the pressure here against this loose knight, wants of course to include other attackers here on the c file. If you clear maybe the knight, then c2 is weak. So slowly but surely Stockfish gets a good compensation for the lost pawn. Stockfish gets a beautiful piece activity. We have bishop to g2 by Torch attacking now the rook on b7. Stockfish continues now with a beautiful plan. Bishop takes c3. The problem is now you cannot take the rook here with the bishop, because then also bishop to a5 is going to happen. You could maybe try bishop to a6, but knight to c5 is actually here a better position for black. Black would have two minor pieces for the rook. Of course, white has here maybe some good chances with his three connected pawns, but we have to say always the white king is exposed to the attacks by these minor pieces, by the potential rook activity. It would be a dangerous position here for white for sure. So that's why for bishop to c3 here, of course, Torch continued with bishop to c3. Stockfish plays now rook to c7, lines up now here the rook on the c file, wants to attack the bishop, but also, as I said, the weakness on c2. Here we have an amazing idea here by Torch. g4. This is the way they go, because if you play rook takes c3, then after something like g takes f5, this is now good situation for black. The knight is hanging, you have to step back, the bishop will be included into the defense, so there's nothing that can, I think, be played here for black. Here white should be again much better. So that's why g4, brilliant idea here by Torch, deflecting simply the bishop from the attack of the c2 pawn, but this gives here Torch the extra time to play bishop to a5. We have rook to c8. Stockfish get challenged in this way. Torch is now finally protecting the king with this rook lift, because now if you play bishop to f5, it's not working anymore. Rook to c3 would solve all of the positional problems. You can maybe trade it off. You try maybe something like king to f8. We play king to b2, knight to c5, and with rook to a1, there is no threat of knight takes a4. The rook is protecting this, so nothing gained, I think here also for black. Good defensive move here by Torch. Rook to d3, beautiful rook lift defense in order to get the rook on c3, and as I said, solve all of the tactical but also all of the positional problems in white's position. So we have knight to c5. Stockfish continues the pressure. We have rook to c3. Knight takes b3 is of course not working, because after c takes b3, everything is glued together, everything is compact. This rook is protected, so it's not working. So after rook to c3, we have now f6 by Stockfish, and now rook to e1, putting more pressure against this weak pawn on e7. King to f7 by Stockfish, and now f4, not allowing, of course, black to expand here in the center of the board with the potential e5 move. And the material is equal, but this, I think this game is a perfect example how the bishops are better in these types of positions where the pawn structure is stretched, where the pawns are all over the board, because bishops are long range pieces and they cannot of course attack all of these pawns all over the board. The knight is of course a slower piece that could maybe slowly attack some pawns, but everything is compact here. White is simply relying on this 3 versus 1 pawn majority on the queen side. Black has, of course, a 4 versus 2 majority here. Will probably get a passer here, but even if you do that, even if you manage to somehow push the pawn on e5, after f takes e5, f takes e5, you could maybe produce a passer, but it would be an isolated pass pawn, which is also a clear target of the attack. So it's very hard for black to make any advantages, although you have a clear advantage on this side of the board, but it's very hard to make any progress here to really challenge white on this side of the board. So that's why I would say this is a much better position here for white. We have h6 by Stockfish. We have h4, bishop to f5, again putting more pressure against this weak pawn on c2. We have bishop to f3, controlling also the e4 square, and now knight to e6. Here Stockfish is trying somehow to get the knight into the game, maybe through the square d4, but Torch is not allowing that. Plays now A very powerful move. Bishop to d5, pin simply the knight to the king here. So rook takes c3, we have bishop to c3, and now rook to b6, protecting now the knight on e6, and now a5 here by a torch. Good move, kicking away the rook, which is of course the defender of the knight on e6. We have rook to d6, a bishop to b7, hitting now the weak pawn on a6. Also here, knight to d8. Finally, Stockfish gets out of this pin, but now after bishop to b2, king to e8, king to b2, and from this point on, I think the game is becoming really a one-way ticket in white's favor. So the attack by black is splashed. The Torch defended everything in a spectacular way. I think here Torch showed its great defensive skills. Now, slowly but surely, we will try to push the pawns here, of course, without risking anything. With the support of the bishop pair, the pawns are marching, and basically black is busted here, I think, in this position. We have knight to e6 by Stockfish, bishop to b7. Good move here by Stockfish, because knight to f4 here would be very dangerous, because for bishop to b4 you have to step back, and now bishop to c6 is winning the game. So you have to protect also your e7. So taking out the pawn is not working here. Even if you try rook to e6, then after rook to e6, bishop to e6, this pawn is falling. And I think again in this position we have to notice that the pieces, the minor pieces of blacks are standing in the way, so you will have to move it somewhere, maybe move the knight, and then you are starting maybe to push the pawns. Meanwhile, white is already there. I think again with the support of the bishop pair, these three connected passers are simply winning here for white. So again, also knight to f4 in this position is not working. So that's why for bishop to b7, Stockfish continued again with the attack against the bishop. Bishop to f3, king to d7, bishop to b4, hitting the rook, and now rook to e6, rook to d1, king to c8, and now again a beautiful move here by Torch, bishop to c5, controlling also the rook here, not allowing the rook to get on e3, where it could be very dangerous, attacking the bishop, maybe going for this weak pawn. So good so far positional play by the Torch chess engine. g5, we have bishop to b6, hitting the knight. Knight drops back to c6, and now after move f takes g5, we have f takes g5, h takes g5, and h takes g5, and that's what I meant in the middle of this video. So although black created here some passers, these are isolated pass pawns, so they're not so important like this three connected pass. Of course, these are not pass pawns, but I think white has a easier time to create here maybe two connected pass pawns. Maybe we can trade off something here. But when two connected pass pawns are rolling with the support of the bishop, with the support of the rook here, I think black has not so many chances to defend this position. So after h takes g5, rook to f1. Good move here by Torch, trying of course bishop takes c6, rook takes c6, and then also to pick up the bishop on f5. We have bishop to h3, rook to g1, hitting now the pawn. Very tough to defend again. Even if you try this one, we take the rook gets deflected, and then the pawn is taken. Even if you try, I don't know, g4 we can take, because here something like this is not working. Rook to g6 is not working because of the pin by the bishop against the rook. So you can maybe try bishop to g4, rook to g4, but again in this potential endgame white should be winning because of this 3 versus 1 situation on the queen side. Very great game by Torch. So after rook to g1, we have rook to f6, attacking now the bishop on f3, bishop to e2, we have king to b7, and now finally rook to g5. The position for Stockfish is collapsing. This one is still weak. Again, you have maybe this passer, but it's not so dangerous when black starts to push it. The bishop pair is simply dominating all over the board here. Well, bishop to e6, rook to g3, rook to f5, and now Stockfish attacks. Torch attacks Stockfish bishop on e6, rook to e5, rook takes e5, knight to e5, and here Torch is saying, I had enough, nothing dramatically can happen. My attack here on the queen side is simply winning here in this endgame. c4 by Torch immediately. We have bishop to g4, bishop to f1. Torch is keeping the pieces on the board. Bishop to g2. We have king to c8, and now of course moving the king slowly. In the endgame, the king should be an active piece, not something that you have to defend. Knight to h4, attacking the bishop. bishop to f1, attacking indirectly, of course, also the pawn on a6. But now the most important goal is somehow to push the pawn on b5, and as I said, simply continuing with two connected passers on the queen side. Bishop to f3, now comes b5, king to b7, king comes closer, knight is trying to get somehow into the game, but now we have this idea: b takes a6, king to a6, king to d6, a beautiful tempo against the knight. The knight has to step back to f5, and now king to c7, the optimal square now for the king. And also the clear path is obvious here for the pawn. Again, with the support of this bishop, it's game over, I think, here for black. We have knight to g3, Stockfish is trying to battle, bishop to h3, knight to f5, c5, knight to e3, trying to somehow get the knight back into the game. We have knight to d5, and now a beautiful move here by Torch, king to b8. Beautiful, beautiful endgame move here, which is not allowing actually here Torch to take the bishop on b6. This is not working. It seems so that this could be maybe a drawish position, but actually it's winning here for white, because after a takes b6, whatever you do, you try maybe king to b6, we move the pawn to c7, you're trying this one, bishop to b7 to control the c8 square, but now we pick up simply this pawn. You try bishop to a6, we're getting this one. You have to now step back because there's simply no good square anymore for the bishop. You're trying maybe this one, and bishop to b7 is winning the game here immediately. You could also try here bishop to c6 instead of king to b6, but now we play again this one, king to c7. You have to step back. Now we take the pawn. You're trying maybe something like this. Again, the bishop gets here. We're trying to trade it off, and again, the game is over here for black. Very, very great endgame technique also here by Torch. So after king to b8, you see knight takes b6 is simply not working here for Stockfish. Very, very cool game by Torch as engine. So king to b5, we have c7, knight to e7, c8, the promotion. Stockfish is forced now to give up the knight for a pawn. Here Torch grabbed another pawn, and now obviously the game is over. Here we have a clear path now for the bishop. After a couple of more moves here, Torch cleared simply the path for this pawn on the a file. We have a6, bishop to a2, a7, bishop to d5. Now comes this idea, covering this diagonal. You have to trade it off. Torch promoted to a new queen, and after a couple more moves, here Torch attacked the king, got the king closer, and after a couple more moves, it was an amazing checkmate with the move queen to e6. So, this is really crazy. So Torch won its game against Stockfish. I have to also mention, Stockfish won also the reverse game. Nothing spectacular happened. We have to say this was maybe not the optimal position for black to defend, but this is it in this top engine tournaments. They have to play pre-arranged lines. It's of course the best way to make this tournaments, because if they would have played only Rui Lopez Italian games, I don't know, Queen's Game Decline, all of these games, I think, between Torch, Lila C0 and Stockfish would always end with a draw. So they have to defend this position. Stockfish won its game also with the white pieces in this reverse game, but so far it's a great thing, I think, for the chess community that now someone else is in the lead in the computer chess world. I'm not sure if Torch will win this tournament, but it's very, very interesting. It didn't happen so often in the computer chess world that Stockfish had to, I don't know, chase someone. It was always a pure domination from the beginning by Stockfish. Now the Torch engine is really making things more interesting, and as I also said, Lila C0 is playing now 2 additional games. When Lila C0 will finish now these 2 games, we'll know where is Stockfish standing after 18 rounds, because Lila C0 so far played 16 rounds. So great game, great strategies, great endgame technique here by Torch. Great also defend with this move that deflected the bishop from the attack. Really, really great things we have seen by Torch. So it will be very, very, very interesting tournament for us to follow for sure. So, okay, if you want to see more beautiful chess games from the computer chess world, check out our Come to Chess Games Play by Computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.